Okay, let's dive in. What if the main tool you use for the internet, your browser, wasn't just showing you information? What if it actually truly understood your digital world, remembered what was relevant, and the big one, acted on your behalf? Think about that. A browser that gets why you're on a specific page, what you're actually trying to get done. So today we are doing a really critical deep dive. We're looking at this massive announcement from October 21st, 2025. It's the launch of ChatGPT Atlas. That's the new web browser built, from the ground up by OpenAI. And this really isn't just some minor update. It feels like a structural change in how we interact with the internet.
That word structural is exactly right, because OpenAI's mission here, they're very clear. It's not just about, sticking a chat window into a browser. They're really trying to fundamentally rethink what it means to use the web. That's their phrase. And the end goal is what they're calling a true super assistant, right? So our job today is to really unpack the features, the memory, the agent stuff that make this claim sound, well, plausible, maybe even inevitable, frankly.
Right. We've gone through the announcement, looked at the architecture, the memory functions, how the agent capabilities work for automation, and, maybe most importantly, the safety and privacy controls they've built in. Because that's central. We need to get what it does, sure, but also what it means for work, for data, all of that. Okay, let's start with maybe the most immediate thing, the day-to-day impact. This seamless integration and contextual understanding. Atlas basically puts ChatGPT right there at the heart of what you're doing in the browser.
Yeah.
The main benefit, getting rid of that constant, annoying context switching that, let's be honest, defines so much of our digital work now.
Yeah, think about it. Right now, using AI, it's an interruption, isn't it? You're copying text from a web page or a doc, opening another window, pasting it in, waiting. Then you copy the answer back. It breaks your focus. It's mentally draining.
Atlas just changes that relationship completely. ChatGPT offers help inside the window you already have open. It looks at the content you're viewing, could be a complicated report, an internal doc, whatever, and it figures out what you need. It can complete tasks, answer questions, without you ever leaving that page.
They gave a great example with Yoga, one of the early student testers. Yoga talked about trying to follow a lecture online while also checking understanding, flipping between slides and a separate ChatGPT tab, sometimes even taking screenshots just to feed the text into the AI. It sounds exhausting.
Exactly. And with Atlas, that whole hassle just disappears.
Yeah.
Yoga said ChatGPT instantly understands the content I'm looking at. So, quick comprehension checks, like clarifying a tricky economic point or maybe summarizing a new regulation, happen right there. The lecture stays in view.
What's really fascinating there, purely from an efficiency angle, is the shift. It moves the browser from being mainly a tool for searching, actively looking for new stuff, to being a tool for supporting what you're already doing. Your workflow. It's like the next step from just having timely information access. Now it's integrated right into how you use the web. For professionals, that means potentially much more focused, deep work without those constant interruptions.
That seamless support is already pretty powerful. But now let's get to the feature that really takes it from just useful to, well, super assistant. And that's the introduction of browser memory. Okay, so this memory, it's a way beyond just your standard browsing history. Atlas is built so ChatGPT remembers the context of the sites and documents you've looked at across different sessions. And then it can actually pull that context back up later to help with new tasks or questions. It essentially gives the AI this persistent, specialized memory bank based entirely on your web habits, your professional life, your personal interest.
Okay, hold on. We have to pause here because that sounds, well, it sounds amazing on one hand and frankly, a little terrifying on the other. Persistent contextual memory. That sounds like the opposite of what many people want for privacy. How do they expect users to trust a system that basically archives everything they look at online? That's a huge ask.
It is, and that's clearly attention they anticipated, which is probably why they were so specific about the controls. Looking at the details, browser memory is completely optional. That's the first thing.
Oh, yeah.
It's fully managed by the user. You have total control. You can go in, see everything it's remembered, tell it which sites not to remember, clear parts of the memory, turn it off completely in the settings.
Right. That level of fine-grained control is absolutely necessary, especially if businesses are going to adopt this. But what about the data usage itself? Because, okay, maybe I manage the memory, but I still don't necessarily want my browsing habits used to train OpenAI's next big model.
Good question. And they made a really crucial call on the default settings here, which seems vital for trust. By default, the content you browse and the stuff in your browser memory is not used for training their models. Full stop. The memory exists solely to make the assistant more useful for you, to give you smarter, context-aware help.
Okay, so it's opt-in for training. If I actually want the model to learn from my data, maybe help improve it for everyone, I have to go into the data settings and actively include web references. That flips the usual model, doesn't it? Control stays with the user by default. That's
Uh-huh.
that's significant.
It really is.
Yeah.
And think about how you could apply this persistent memory in a professional context. Say you're a consultant prepping for a client meeting. You could ask Atlas something like, okay, I'm meeting those pharma clients I researched last week. Can you summarize their recent M&A activity based on the press releases and reports I was looking at back then? Hmm. For the AI to do that, it needs to recall specific pages you visited, maybe cross-reference a few sources you looked at, pull it all together. That kind of synthesis currently takes, what, hours of digging back through notes and history?
Oh, easily. The efficiency gain just from offloading that initial research consolidation is potentially massive. It basically turns your browser into a junior research assistant that remembers everything you've already seen. Okay, but that leads us naturally to the next step, right? Moving from just assistance to actual autonomy. Let's talk agent mode.
Exactly. Agent mode. This is where you can actually tell Atlas to perform complex multi-step actions for you right inside the browser. It automates those workflows that normally involve tons of clicking, opening tabs, typing things in again and again. It's out now as a preview, but only for the paid tiers. Plus, Pro and business users currently. Let's look at the examples they gave because they really highlight the potential here. On the personal side, think about chores, like planning a dinner party. You could tell ChatGPT, find me a good recipe for lasagna, find the newest grocery store from this chain, add all the ingredients from the recipe to my online cart there, and set up delivery to my home.
Yeah, that example seems simple, but think about the steps involved. It has to understand the recipe, navigate to a grocery site, potentially log you in, search for each specific item, add quantities to a cart, then navigate the checkout process. That could be, I don't know, 20, 30 manual clicks and page loads condensed into one instruction.
And the professional examples are even more striking. The announcement mentioned instructing the agent to, say, open and read through 5 specific team documents you worked on last quarter. Maybe they're scattered across Google Drive and SharePoint. Then go do some fresh competitive research on 2 rivals by visiting their websites and maybe some news sites. And then compile all the key insights from both the old docs and the new research into a summary doc, or even a basic slide deck.
Wow. Okay, if you connect that to the bigger picture, agent mode really feels like the first properly accessible version of this future people talk about, where, a big chunk of routine web use happens via agents. The economic implication is pretty clear. All that repetitive stuff, comparing prices, gathering data points, basic report compilation gets delegated, which frees you, the human, up for the stuff that needs creativity, strategic thinking, actual judgment.
But, okay, that power immediately brings up big safety questions, right?
Right.
What happens if the agent misunderstands? Or, more practically, going back to the dinner party, what if I ask it to order ingredients and it picks the super expensive organic versions of everything when I normally buy the store brand? Does it learn my preferences over time? Price sensitivity.
That specificity, or maybe the lack of it right now, is definitely a limitation. That's a huge challenge for them. The user expectation is going to shift really fast from just, can it do the task, to can it do the task the way I like it done? But when we talk about safety, the immediate concern is usually more about malicious stuff, right?
Right.
Unauthorized actions.
Absolutely. If this agent can click around and interact with your accounts, the guardrails have to be incredibly strong.
Oop.
Let's go through the specific safety restrictions they detailed for agent mode. First, system access. The agent cannot execute any code in the browser itself, it can't download files without permission, and it absolutely cannot install browser extensions. Its actions are confined purely to interacting with web content like a human user would.
And that extends to protecting your local machine too, right? The agent cannot access other apps running on your computer. It can't read your local files. Also, critically, it cannot read or write to that browser memory we talked about earlier. The context store is separate. And maybe most reassuringly for many, it cannot access your saved passwords or use any autofill data from the browser. These seem like non-negotiable boundaries.
Definitely. Another key privacy point. When the agent is browsing pages to complete a task you gave it, those pages are not added to your regular browsing history. So it keeps a clean separation between your manual activity and the automated tasks. Nobody looking at your history later will see the agent's steps.
They also talked about extra defensive layers, like the option to run agents in something called logout mode, which basically means the agent starts fresh every time with no cookies. And it has to get explicit permission from you each time it needs to log into any online account. That adds friction, sure, but it's a big barrier against unauthorized account access if you're particularly concerned.
And finally, the technical stuff behind the scenes. They mentioned expanded red teaming efforts. That's where they have teams trying to break the safety features. And beefed up defenses against prompt injection attacks, which is crucial. For anyone unfamiliar, prompt injection is basically trying to trick the AI. You hide malicious instructions inside a seemingly normal request, hoping the AI ignores its safety rules and does something bad, like revealing private data or making an unwanted purchase.
Mm-hmm. Those defenses have to be robust. It sounds like they've put a lot of work into stress testing this before release.
Yeah, the sheer amount of detail they provided on safety suggests they know that trust is everything here. If people are going to let an autonomous agent loose in their browser, they need absolute confidence it won't go rogue. The system has to fail safely. So for anyone listening who wants to try this out, ChatGPT Atlas launched October 21st, 2025. It's available now for macOS, covering free users, plus Pro and Go users. It's also in beta for business accounts, so enterprise and education users can get it if their admin enables it. And they confirmed versions for Windows, iOS, and Android are actively being developed, expected soon. Plus a roadmap with ongoing improvements, things like multi-profile support, which would be great for separating work and personal browsing contexts, and also an apps SDK, so developers can integrate their own services more deeply with agent mode. Lots coming down the pipe.
So wrapping it up, Atlas really does feel like a significant conceptual shift. We're moving the browser away from just being a passive window you look through to see the web. It's becoming an active participant, an intelligent agent that understands context, remembers relevant history, synthesizes information, and can actually act autonomously. By integrating memory and action, it fundamentally changes the game for how we can delegate digital tasks, shifting that workload.
Which brings us to that final thought, something for you listening to maybe mull over or explore yourself. If your browser truly becomes an extension of your own mind, your own specialized memory, and it can handle a lot of that routine research, analysis, and logistical legwork, what do you do with that freed up time and mental energy? How will you choose to delegate? And what higher level, maybe more creative or strategic work, will you focus on instead? Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into what looks like the future of the web browser.